And exasperated about President Trump's wiretap claim, a claim, of course, that President Trump has yet to offer any evidence to back up. But the White House has no plans to dial it back. In case you've been asleep for the last 4 days, here is the tweet in question. How low has President Obama gone to tap my phones during the very sacred election process? This is Nixon Watergate. Bad or sick guy? Joining me now, someone who knows a little bit about Nixon and Watergate, former White House counsel to President Nixon, John Dean. John, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
So you have, of course, as we have said before, a well-documented history with a president and wiretaps. What did you think, John, when you saw this explosive allegation coming from President Trump against President Obama?
Well, my first reaction was, how low will President Trump go, rather than him trying to say how low will Obama go. I know as a fact that it is very difficult today, and no presidents really do it, order wiretaps out of the White House. There are really two routes they can go. One is for a criminal proceeding, the other is a foreign proceeding, and they're both very cumbersome today. This is all post-Watergate, and it's also post 1972, when the Supreme Court ruled that national security wiretaps were illegal, and that's what really resulted in the FISA law. So it was just clearly the man could have picked up the telephone, the president could have picked up the telephone and said, did my predecessor wiretap me, and gotten a definitive answer. He didn't do that.
I do find it fascinating how often, and it's been more than once, that President Trump himself evokes Nixon, the Nixon era and Watergate when he talks about kind of what's happening today. Why do you think that is?
Well, he seems to be a man, I'm speaking about Trump, who projects onto others what is falling on him. We saw it during the campaign. One that just jumped to mind is when Hillary Clinton called him Putin's puppet, he turned around and called Hillary Putin's puppet, something like a 7-year-old might. So, but he does this on a larger scale, and I think he sees the Watergate-type atmosphere descending on his White House, so he's now turning around and charging it against Obama to try to deflect the tension off of himself. That's the only explanation I can see.
And John, since you have been in the inner circle of a White House, I do have to ask you, I keep kind of harping on this when people say that we kind of wonder, should we take this president seriously or literally? I would, and many others have argued, you should take him both seriously and literally. When it comes to these tweets, that is what a lot of you heard from the House Intelligence Committee chairman, is that he's a political neophyte, and sometimes you guys, the media, take him literally in suggesting that we shouldn't. Do you think a president should be taken seriously and literally, or otherwise?
Well, at this point, it's very early in his presidency. I think the only safe route is take him both literally and really you can't totally ignore these charges he's making. So you have to look at them. He is clearly playing the press. He did this when he was in New York with the tabloids, where he carrot and sticked them until they got them in line. I don't think he's going to bring the Washington press corps into line the way he did the New York tabloids. And I think he's somewhat frustrated about that he really can't do everything he wants to do and make them behave the way he would like them to behave.
You were counsel to a president. You were counsel to President Nixon. You went through Watergate. How would you counsel this president, John, in the middle of these explosive claims and what you say is kind of a Watergate era that he could be facing?
Well, I would certainly say what he's doing in his relationships with the federal bureaucracy in general, with the intelligence community in particular, is build enemies, and this is not a smart thing to do. Doing the same thing with the media. There's going to be a time when he needs to be believed, when he needs to have all the support he can find, and he's done nothing, Kate, to try to bring that that kind of cooperation and support that this army of people who are there to serve him are ready to provide. They're really, they're not, civil servants are not terribly partisan people, and for him to cause war with him is just, to me, silly.
And Democrats, John, they see this latest claim, this allegation coming from the president. They see it as another reason, in their view, to bring in a special prosecutor to handle the investigation into Russia and ties with Trump and Trump associates. Republicans, at the very least, they say it's too soon. Some of them say absolutely not. What do you think?
Well, I think if Trump had nothing to hide, he would be very smart to tell his deputy attorney general when he gets through the confirmation, or even pass the word during the confirmation, and have him pledge to get an independent counsel in there, a special counsel, and say we're going to cooperate fully. Okay. We want to end all this nonsense. Well, but he's not. I'm not sure he's a man who can do that.
We'll see as time passes, or what could tip that scale. John Dean, it's always great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
We're going to be right back to our